Hey guys, Kalltorak here. Today I am bringing you my Flame God Smith of Katawa for leveling and endgame. My vision for this build was trying to imagine how a Smith of Katawa would train. I pictured him waking up in the morning, having a steaming cup of coffee at about 200 degrees before heading to a local blacksmith. He gives a wave and a good morning to the smith before he steps inside a furnace and takes a nice soak and meditates. The man that emerged from this flame was a master of the elements. Not only would he be immune to the damage of the elements, but he would violently wield the flames against his enemies. I believe I have nailed that theme with this build. The core of the build is Living Bomb. It's a really fun skill that I fell in love with in patch 0.1 on my Titan. It is a spell that is attached to the weapon Pyrophyte Staff. You plant a seed on an enemy and it slowly detonates. Baseline, it's really slow and you are limited to one bomb at a time, but with the support gems Overabundance and Fast Forward, as well as the passives Near at Hand and Forthcoming, you can transform the spell into something amazing. With this, you are able to chain cast instant exploding living bombs with no delay. Even early on in the campaign, you are smoothly able to level with only Living Bomb. What makes Living Bomb even more amazing to use is the fact that it costs 0 mana. Living Bomb has no mana cost, which comes with more advantages than you would think. 1, this enables us to use a support gem like Zenith, but most importantly, it lets us use Mana Tempest with no downside. Mana Tempest boosts your spells with lightning damage, but it has the cost of draining your mana when you do so. However, it only drains mana based off the cost of the spell you used. Living Bomb has no cost, so we are able to abuse Mana Tempest to significantly amp our damage on bossing, while also giving us the ability to shock with Living Bomb. Now there are some downsides here. Since the spell is attached to a weapon, you are constantly required to upgrade your staff while leveling. Anytime I went more than 8 levels without upgrading my staff, my boss damage would tank. Not only are you required to upgrade your staff frequently, but you are basically limiting your search to Pyrophyte staffs that have the max possible roll of added levels to fire spells. Anything you can do to increase your spell gem level, you should. I always rolled with the highest level rolls of levels to fire spells on staff, max roll of levels to spell on necklace, and I used Crown of the Victor the entire campaign for the bonus level. Another massive downside for spells attached to weapons is your support gem slots are attached to the level of the weapon. This works different than how it does with attack skills, where you unlock the support gem slot based off your player level. For a majority of the campaign, you are limited to only 2 support gems in Living Bomb. These slots are basically required to use Overabundance and Fast Forward, so no adding Zenith until you get a staff at level 40. The worst part is, there are no level 90 Pyrophyte staffs. As far as I can tell, it is impossible to get the 5th support socket for Living Bomb. Support gems are arguably the most important thing for a skill's damage and performance, so missing out on a passive gem here is an L. This is why I added in Flameblast. I love Flameblast in patch 0.1, I had multiple builds using it. They increased the cooldown on it and I was nervous about using it. It feels pretty good though, it hits insanely hard and it's my main bossing tool now. I am able to handle Waystone 16 bosses pretty easily, but Pinnacle content can be slow. Except for Simulacrum, which I can surprisingly handle. This brings me to Smith, which is why should you go Smith over Titan, Blood Mage, or Chronomancer? Again, the main reason I went Smith was for the theme of being a fire god. I'll break down each ascendancy though. Smith of Katawa is budget friendly. I was very easily able to get 90 all elemental res, 75% chaos res, while still amping my damage for fire spells on the tree. Getting this tanky might not be possible on Titan. However, Titan will definitely have a lot more damage. Living Bomb will hit hard and go off faster, and your curses will be more powerful. Titan is probably better than Smith if you have a serious budget, but hard to say without testing. Blood Mage is interesting because you get the bonus of all the crit stuff as well as Spell Leech. If I were to revisit this build on Blood Mage, I would do a crit version while using the gloves that let you leech Energy Shield. Could be more powerful than both Titan and Smith. Chronomancer I like because of the reset cooldowns for Flameblast. Flameblast is seriously a lot of damage and most of our damage for Pinnacle content. Having multiple Flameblast resets could lead you to killing some Pinnacle content in a matter of seconds. I honestly really like my choice of Smith though, and I don't think I'd change. I might visit this build on a Chronomancer though, we'll see. This was definitely one of my favorite builds of the league. It wasn't super expensive, but it did require buying a lot of staffs to level this way. Alright, let's dive into the overview. Okay, I'm going to try and run through the build, but there's a lot to go over here, and the build is performing way better than I expected. There might be an update video, as I'm only level 87 right now, so like this build can be optimized further once I can experiment with it better, but I have a feeling that this build, when you min-max it, could push very far. I'm already able to, at level 87, clear Simulacrum 4, and I can clear Breach +2. So the build's pretty cool. So yeah, like throughout the main campaign, you are primarily using Living Bomb, and I know I talk about in the video how you are limited by the 4 sockets, and that does become a problem, but for moments in the campaign. But once you get deep into the end game, it's really not a problem anymore because of Flameblast. Flameblast is really covering up all of the holes that Living Bomb has. It's not perfect, but it's in a pretty good state. You really are just running around using Living Bomb, though. It is a pretty instantaneous cast here, as you can see here. I'm even missing Near at Hand right now, and it's still doing very well for me. When you're in the mid-90s, you're going to be pretty dang tanky and unkillable. As you see in the clips, because of the double aura with Temporal Change and Enfeeble, nothing can get to me, and when it does get to me, it barely hurts because I have 90 res, 89 chaos, or 69 chaos, nice, 2400 life, you know. The build is not optimized, but so tanky, and yeah, the damage is pretty cool. And yeah, so let's just dive into it. So like Living Bomb, when we look at my stash here, you can see that I leveled with a bunch of different staffs. Some of these were just test staffs. I didn't use all of these, but you do need a lot of staffs if you want to level with Living Bomb through the campaign. I know this can be tedious for some people. You don't have to level with Living Bomb. You can level with another skill and then transition to this endgame. But Living Bomb is a nice pairing with Flameblast for a lot of reasons. But I do enjoy leveling with Living Bomb. I do highly recommend it. Obviously, this is not great for league starting, but yeah, if you have currency at this point and you want to buy a bunch of Pyrophyte staffs, great leveling process. And then, yeah, when you get into endgame, you are still using Living Bomb primarily on mapping, but when you get to bossing and Pinnacle content, that's where Flameblast mainly takes over. The cool thing about Flameblast is, as you can see here, it leaves this burning ground on the ground, and it doesn't talk about it in the skill details, but what I think happens is the burning damage you deal on the ground, I don't know what it's scaling off of. I don't know if it's just like the normal burning ground that just deals like % life damage, I guess, or if it's doing a % of damage based off of the Flame Blast, but either Flame Blast big hit can ignite or that burning ground will ignite. And what you will have happen is either just on bossing, the Flame Blast will ignite really hard and you'll do big ignite damage. But when paired with Crackle Creep, I only use this in Simulacrum right now, it is awesome. You will get a single ignite prolification, just like with my poison builds or any poison build you see, or any like kind of those spread builds. You get that initial ignite, and it can spread for the entire duration of Simulacrum. So, and that's why I use this ring. It pairs perfectly with the Smith of Catava playstyle. We have the fire res on it. We have the increased fire damage, which benefits the entire build. Now, when I'm not doing Simulacrum right now, I am swapping back to my other rare ring. I am not currently optimized to be able to run both Black Flame Ring and Crackle Creep. That's why one of the reasons why I say there might be an update is because I don't have the optimization or the currency to test all of this stuff yet. But right now I run Crackle Creep for Simulacrum, and then when I go to Pinnacle content or maps in general, I swap back to the double rare setup. And then for Pinnacle bosses specifically, for most content I keep Dodres on, but for specifically like doing Breach boss, like Zetch and stuff, I do a negative fire res setup. I do have a lot of damage penetrates, elemental res. I haven't ran it through Path of Building to see like if I'm like over cap or like if this damage actually works out, but it does feel really good on Zetch. And it's the setup I swapped to for that. So that's like with the gear swap setup. And as you can see from the clips, it's very versatile build. If you don't mind doing these gear swapping, it can do a lot of content. Without the gear swapping, it's still pretty good. You can probably get away with running this setup for all content, Crackle Creep, Dodres with this setup. As you can see with all this on, I am at res cap with 69% chaos res and the life cap still. So I could run this setup for all content, but obviously for like Pinnacle bosses and just bosses in general, you don't need this ring on. It's not a bad ring per se, but you're going to get more out of either Black Flame or out of Soul Grasp. And then of course Leopold is not needed for all content, but for the content you're using for that negative fire res, elemental res, is really nice. It's just a super versatile build. I know a lot of people like myself were very turned off by the changes to Flameblast. In 0.1 I had multiple Flameblast builds. I have invested minor into cooldown reduction, but right now it's at a 12.5 second cooldown, and that does suck. You don't get to spam it all the time, but when you do get to use it, it's super satisfying. And now that I've played with it, I'm actually pretty happy with the state of Flameblast. It's just really cool. Especially now that we're actually seeing Ignite Prolification get some value. It's not as good as Poison Spread, but in Simulacrum, it has been great. So let's just run through these skill gems. I think that's the best overview I can give. So yeah, in Living Bomb, right now I have a level 84 staff. Again, we're limited at a 5 link with skill, with this kind of stuff. And I know some people in the comments are going to be like, no, you need level 90. That's only for weapon attacks, mace strikes, stuff like that. That does not work for Living Bomb. I've equipped this staff on a level 90 character, a level 93 character. You don't get the 5th link. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's just an oversight on GGG's end or it's intentional. When you want this 5th socket for spell skills attached to weapons, the weapon has to be level 90. And there is no level 90 Pyrophyte staff, so there's just no way to get this right now. If I am wrong, please let me know. Post proof of a way to get this 5th socket, but whether I've looked at PoE Ninja or just anywhere on the trade and testing many different items and different characters. Again, I know this character's not 90. I've tested on a level 90. This just does, like, there's no way to get it as far as I can tell. So in Living Bomb, I have Overabundance, Fast Forward, Zenith, and Elemental Focus. And yeah, it's just, this is our main mapping tool. I know you're going to want to try and like panic over Living Bomb's damage not getting super high. You really just need it for white mobs on maps, because for the difficult content, Flameblast can take care of everything else. And yeah, because of overabundance, you really can just spam it. And right now, I'm not getting off too many because my cast speed can be pretty low. But if you get a high enough cast speed and then you do end up getting near at hand, you really are zooming them out. But I don't think you need to overinvest in the Living Bomb. Moving on to Flameblast here, we have Controlled Destruction, Arcane Tempo, Concentrated Effect, Fire Mastery, and Considered Casting. And yeah, I mean, the harder this hits, obviously the better. It's our main source of damage for bossing and Simulacrum, and yeah, it's really cool. I'm really happy with the state of Flameblast. Right now, I do have a Prism of Belief for +3 skills to get it just as juiced as possible. I don't know if that's needed. Again, I'm still only level 87 and need testing to do, but it feels pretty cool so far. And then, yeah, again, it's got the many stages. At this point, the mana's pretty intense. That was me channeling while using a mana flask, by the way. So it's just, it can be pretty mana intensive at times. That's one of the downsides with the Flameblast, is at this high of a level, is it's just super mana intensive. As you can see here, if I don't mana flask here, I don't know if I'll even get the full channel off. I did barely get the full channel off, but if I was not at full mana, or was any mana leech going on around me, I would not get the full channel off. Solar Orb. So Solar Orb right now, I mainly use it either as a safety Flame Blast, because you can cast Flame Blast on it from a distance, or it's just to build my exposure. I was trying to build exposure with Incinerate, but it was just too inconsistent for me. I don't really like Incinerate. So yeah, Solar Orb is my exposure right now. Blasphemy. People sleep on Blasphemy too, I think. I know most people would want to be trying to get, like, Archmage. Archmage is actually really cool because Archmage does increase the damage of Living Bomb. It's another one of those ways to amp Living Bomb's damage, right? I could be using Archmage, but I did, like, as you can see in the clips, like, the double aura with Blasphemy and Feeble Temporal Change, you're so tanky and, like, safe. I don't think I would trade this for anything. Yeah, inside of it, Temporal Change and Feeble, Magnified Effect, Heightened Curse. Mana Tempest is super cool. It's a skill that just boosts the damage of your spells, and inside of Living Bomb, there's no downside to use it. As you can see here, empowered spells gain 90% of damage as lightning damage, and it does work for Living Bomb. Confirmed and tested. Pretty awesome. Now, as you can see here, when you cast something like Solar Orb or Flame Blast, your mana will get drained near immediately. And it only got sold out because of my mana flask there. And once you run out of mana, you lose the Tempest Cloud, which it can be used to burst the damage of Flame Blast, I believe. Let's see. I don't think so. Never mind. So, yeah. So don't worry about it with Flame Blast, but for Mana Tempest with Solar Orb, obviously it'll just tank your mana, and you'll lose the Cloud. And you don't want that. It's really just a tool to use with Living Bomb. Don't worry about Incinerates. You can use Incinerate to get negative 60 exposure, but it's just so clunky. And then Raging Spirits I'm no longer using. I was just briefly using it to level during the campaign. Let's talk about gear. So Pyrophyte Staff. I'm not sure what the best stats are here, but getting, of course, Fire Spell Skills +7 is huge. And then, of course, increased spell damage, increased added damage. I'm not sure what's best, mana regeneration or cast speed here. I would probably go with mana regen just based off how bad my mana is being right now, but maybe in the mid-90s. Cast speed will feel better. What's important is it's a level 84 Pyrophyte Staff, because you'll want the highest rank Living Bomb. But, yeah. We already talked about Crackle Creep. This is mainly for Simulacrum. We already talked about Dodres versus Leopolds. You're going to be wearing Dodres 98% of the time. Leopolds only for Pinnacle bosses. Black Flame Ring, not sure when we'll use yet. Chest Piece, since we're Smith of Catawba. This chest piece gives us 30 Spirit. And then we have the 3 runes for the maximum fire res. It's the only way I was able to hit 90. It'd be like, 89 if I only had 2 sockets. And then, yeah, this is just for the additional Spirit. Even, I'm at 22 over right now. You do need Spirit on both your Amulet and your Body Armor. I just happen to have more than I can spend right now. But without having the Body Armor and the Amulet both, I would not have enough for this juicy Blasphemy. Let's see here. So for belt, you could potentially... I was using Infernal Clasp for a while, but I no longer need to. I have Anointed Unnatural Resilience, which allowed me to get more life from a belt with more strength and stuff. Unnatural Resilience is an extremely expensive anoint. It is 3 isolations, so this is not cheap. But if you can afford it, it is obviously insanely good, because it's how I got 90 all-res very cheap. Not cheap, but easily. Helmet is just Chaos and Fire Res and Int with max life. Boots are Chaos, max life. This just happened to have Lightning Res on it as well, with 35% move speed. I don't know what's necessarily best here. I went with Spell Damage, Max Life, Spirit, and Spell Skills. I mean, if you're looking for an amulet that has +3 Spell Skills and Spirit and Max Life, you can't really be too picky what the other rolls are. I got lucky with this amulet being this good. I think I spent 3 Divine on it. You could potentially get better rolls, with better side stats, but I feel like this is pretty good for the price that I spent on it. For rings, increased fire damage is nice. Maximum life, cast speed, mana regeneration, strength, int. Make sure you're getting your reses as much as you can. Again, as much fire res as possible. I'm not good at min-maxing. This is obviously super overkill. Again, I just bought gear that I could afford on a budget. I don't run things in Path of Building, so clearly I don't need 90 over 117, 90 over 153, 90 over 228, right? Well, you kind of need 90 over 228 here because you're running specifically Unnatural Resilience, which is the additional maximum fire res per overcap. So you do want that much fire res, but those two are a little bit, or at least cold is over, as lightning is 2 over, but yeah. I don't think there's anything else. So for charms right now, I'm running stone and grounding for shock and stun. I feel like I get just interrupted out of Flameblast too much. I don't know if I need to invest more into stun threshold or something, but that's my biggest problem right now, is just getting interrupted out of Flameblast. So that's what my charms are set up for. Let's take a look at the passive tree. So for the Ascendancy, Coal Stoker and Forge and Flame just for the maximum fire res cap. And then for Smith's Masterwork, you want Leather Bindings, Molten Symbol, Flowing Metal, and Katavan Engraving. This just makes you so dang tanky. And that's really just the point of going Smith versus the other Ascendancies, is it just makes you ungodly tanky. Alright, let's talk about the jewels. I don't normally talk about jewels this early on, but I want to talk about them while they're on my mind before we go into other stuff. So jewels can go a lot of ways. Right now, all of my jewels are fire damage and damage penetrates fire res. This was for Pinnacle content, because I thought there was a chance I could do Pinnacle content. I didn't think this would be good at Simulacrum until I tried Simulacrum and surprisingly cleared all the way through 4. So right now I would have different jewels if I was Simulacrum focused. But for bossing and for mapping in general, you'll want damage penetrates fire resistance and increased fire damage. And then for Simulacrum, you'll want increased magnitude of ignite, and then you want faster damage ailments on all of your rubies. I'm not 100% sure on how good this is. I think this is worth it, the Flameblast +3 Prism of Belief. For the Megalomaniac, okay, this is where I wanted to talk about stuff, though. I have tested a lot of Megalomaniacs, and there's many more I want to test. I've tested Giant Slayer and Mental Alacrity. I've tested Master of Hexes and Exposed to the Inferno. Right now, I'm testing for cooldown reduction, Distracting Presence, and Smoke Inhalation. There are many other ones I want to try. I want to try fast-acting toxins and some like other ignite magnitude ones. Like, there is a lot to test here. I'm not sure what is better here. It depends on what your focus is. If you are focusing on like pushing +4 Jet, you're going to want something more fire pen and then like fire damage focus. If you're looking for something more quality of life, I'm really a big fan of, where is it? It's right here, Unhindered. This makes you cast Flame Blast and Living Bomb smoother. You know, there's a lot of Megalomaniacs here. I don't have them listed in the written guide because I'm not sure what's best yet. There's just so many situational things that could be good here. I want to test something with like fast-acting toxins soon, but I'm just out of divine. I'm just out of currency now. This build has been expensive for how much I've tested on it, and there's still so much more I want to test. So, yeah, there will be more to test over time, but yeah, I'm not sure on Megalomaniacs yet. But yeah, that's the gem. So, you want to path through here, get Burning Away. Near at hand. This right now is set up in a different weapon set passive. Don't look at exactly what's in this tree. This is all set up weird because I'm only level 87. Look at what's in the written guide. Path through here, get Radio Force, get the increased magnitude of your auras, life regen, recoup stuff here. Bigger AoE for both Flame Blast and Living Bomb. Increase elemental damage with attacks. The jewel node here. This is, again, the Ignite magnitude and duration stuff. This is for Simulacrum. This is just for both builds, increase area of effect and fire damage. Path up here, volcanic skin for both sets. Burnout, this is for the simulacrum set. And then cremation, anything that's like this, that's fire exposure, like fire penetration and stuff like that, this is going to be mainly for like pinnacle content. So that's what cremation's for. That's for the jet set, weapon set. Forthcoming, get more cooldown or the skill effect duration for the instant explosion living bombs. All right, sorry about that. I had something caught in my throat. A little bit of a coughing fit. So for forthcoming and near at hand, these might actually adjust to a weapon set passive swap as well. Those might only be in like the mapping set, the bossing setups. They're not necessarily needed for the simulacrum setup, so I'm not sure what weapon set these will end up being in. Maybe they stay in main setup. They probably will stay in main. I'm not sure. You do want to get Whisper of Doom for the double cursing. Royal, increase spell area of effect. Breath of Fire, again, more fire penetration for the bossing weapon set. And then Zone Control and Hindered capabilities. For more cursing, magnitude, area effect, your curses hinder, and then, of course, you do more damage versus hinder targets. So, that's the setup. Again, I'm only level 87 right now, but it can go a lot further. I'm actually going to be playing this build for at least a few more days while I test it out. But, yeah. Let me know what you think about how it should be optimized, how we can get the damage further. Simulacrum 4 is already done, but let's see if we can get to +4 Jet. Okay, that's the build. I hope you enjoyed it. I really think I nailed the theme here. Let me know what you think down below. Apologies to Darth microtransaction, we once again ran out of time. Take care, boys. See ya in the next one.